4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everybody, how's it going? It is the 26th of February 2012 and this is episode number 67 of Ironhammers Live, your weekly PC gaming podcast being broadcast live every single Sunday at around about 10 PM ish. That's GMT, by the way, just to make it specific. My name, as you may be aware, is Bobby Gooden, also known throughout the online realm as Ironhammers, and joining me at the press of a button, Daniel Knappman. Harley Dan, how are you doing? I'm talking too loud.
I'm doing brilliantly, cheers man. Had another great weekend.
Great week, great weekend, great weather.
Yeah, fantastic weather. Driving around with the roof down earlier.
Driving around with the roof down, was that on your push bike?
No, Mum's car, so it leaks, so I had to put the roof down to help dry it out. Otherwise it would have steamed up so much I couldn't have seen where I was going.
As you do, do. Any other exciting events this week, Dan?
Yeah, I had a race with the Gaming for the Elderly guys, and I didn't epically fail. I finished 5th in one of the races.
Oh yeah,
bloody good for me.
Not bad at all, man.
Yeah, considering I haven't practiced that track at all, never raced it before.
Which track was it?
I can't remember.
Did you see Top Gear's Silverstone in the snow?
I did indeed.
That looked fun, man.
It'd be
That looked
so
like
much
a whole
fun.
lot of fun. Who knows what happened this week? Was there an episode this week, by the way?
There was indeed.
I haven't
I
seen it
watched
yet.
it just before chatting to you.
Don't spoil it. I don't want Top Gear spoilers, Dan.
I won't spoil it.
Don't do it. It could be fatal. Anyhow, we've got a few things lined up this week to discuss. A little bit of news, as always. A little bit of stuff, which is actually how it's labelled in our show notes here. We have a section which is stuff, aka what we've been playing this week. And it's looking a bit bleak, I might say.
It is, isn't it?
Hence why it got renamed Stuff, I guess. And finally we'll be finishing up with a return, as requested last week by Mr. Common Troll, because we like to look after the listeners. Question of the week. And it's all about Day 1 DLC, in particular, that of Mass Effect 3. So, anyway, shall we... I can't talk. I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to sit here in silence and be awkward. No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. We're going to get on some PC gaming news, and we'll kick it off with something that I kind of got a bit of flack about on Twitter, as I did with the Mass Effect stuff. And that was the Battlefield Blackout, which I don't know if any of you have heard about. Did you hear much about this, Dan?
No, I don't know why.
Oblivious?
I've kind of missed everything this week. Just wandering around in a world of my own.
Well,
It's been fantastic.
Let me tell you all about it, Dan. It started off at battlefieldo.com or Fieldio, I don't know how it's called. It's quite a big Battlefield community online, and it all started with a lack of communication apparently from DICE about upcoming patches and balance changes and different bugs and shit which are apparently wrong with Battlefield 3. I can't really comment because I don't play it. And it led to all sorts of fuss and led to ultimately this website organising a 24-hour blackout of Battlefield 3, telling everybody to stop playing it, stop tweeting about it, stop doing anything to do with Battlefield for 24 hours in a hope that DICE would listen up and kind of come through with some patch notes, which they kind of did within a couple of days. So it seems it wasn't so hard, but I didn't really get it, to be honest. I don't play the game, so I can't comment. But the thing that I didn't get was everyone's complaining about all these problems with the game, but this is where I caught my flack. They want to only stop playing it for 24 hours.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Why?
Why not
play something else if it's so bad?
Yeah. Stop playing it altogether?
Yeah. Why? Like, stop playing it until it's fixed or something. Like,
Yeah.
if you're going back to it after 24 hours, the problems really can't be that bad.
Although I stopped playing Test Drive Unlimited 2. It's fixed, and they still haven't fixed it, so I'm still not playing it.
Makes sense.
Which
Makes sense.
I'd kind of like to play more of it, but I want a bike. I don't want to drive past the bike shops and look at the bikes. I want to actually try one.
Can you not actually get bikes in it?
I don't know if you can yet. I haven't played it for so long. You
Could
could
you
when
not?
I last played it. Yeah, you could drive past the Ducati dealership, and that was it.
But you can actually. I don't know. I did play it, but not enough to actually get to the point of wondering whether I could buy a bike. But I thought that was what those games were kind of about. I thought they were meant to have bikes and shit.
Yeah, well, the first one did, and
Yeah.
they said they were working on the bikes, so they were perfect when you could finally get them, and I think they've given up on it now.
Probably. I think they
I
gave up
have.
on the cars as well before they started. That's another matter altogether.
Yeah.
But yeah, this whole Battlefield Blackout thing, I don't know what your thoughts on it are, Dan, but for me it just seems like people's... I can understand the frustration if they've paid for a game and it's not working how they think it should. But,
But
and I can understand that they want some sort of feedback from DICE about when or if it's going to be fixed. But it just seems to be everyone... And the same... It's another point that I'm going to kind of reiterate when we get to talking about Day 1 DLC.
yeah,
Everyone seems to have such a sense of entitlement. Like,
I know.
I understand you've paid money for it, but like, it's not like the game's just come out. Like, if you're still playing Battlefield 3 right now, then you can't have that much of a problem. I just don't really understand it. I don't play it, but I mean, I have played it. I own a copy, but it's not like I know many people don't play anything but it, if you know what I'm saying. And these are obviously the people that are frustrated, but it just, I don't know.
It
And
seems like
it's all
too
assumption.
little, too late.
It,
Really, I mean, 24 hours. Come on.
like I said, does anybody care if people who have already paid their money for the game stop playing it for 24 hours? Like, I mean, it looks as though DICE did care and they listened up because they came through with an announcement within a couple of days, but it could have been in the works for months anyway.
Exactly. They could have been thinking, oh, well, we're trying to get that out anyway.
Exactly, I don't know. And following the chat is saying the people behind it were mainly fed up with the suits from EA silencing DICE, which, as again with the Mass Effect stuff, it just seems like assumption again. The two recurring themes of tonight's show will be, and I know I'm going to get flack for it because I already have done on Twitter. I was like simultaneously arguing with about 7 different people on Twitter about it the other day. But assumption and entitlement are two things that I think I might mention again a bit later on. But let's move on to something a little bit more interesting, Dan.
Right.
And AMD wanted to buy Nvidia apparently. Now,
Yeah.
This is a good news story, isn't it?
Yeah. Quite a while ago, by the look of it.
Quite a while ago. I don't know how long ago it was that they actually bought ATI. Maybe a year, 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah,
They actually
something.
changed it over. I don't know exactly, but apparently years before that, AMD were trying to buy Nvidia, and
Yeah.
I think it's quite an interesting thing to think about, because we've now got all the AMD Fusion stuff, which has got the, I think they're called APUs, aren't they? Where they've got the CPU and the GPU on the same chip. Yeah, we've got that, and we've obviously got the AMD branded Radeon cards and stuff. But I just find it very interesting to think that that could have all happened with Nvidia, and
Yeah, it was back in 2006 they were trying to buy them out.
yeah, it was. And this story has come from apparently from ex-AMD employees, apparently. But yeah, it's you imagine if it was AMD Fusion with NVIDIA graphics in it, and the same with the, say, GeForce graphics cards, if it was AMD GeForce, because I mean they ditched ATI eventually, didn't they? It's now AMD Radeon.
Yeah.
And they would have, NVIDIA may have been no more. I don't think it would have been. They would have probably done it differently if it had been NVIDIA rather than ATI.
The thing is now, it's more likely to, the table has turned so much, it's more likely that NVIDIA could buy out AMD now. They've got something like 2.8 million more in stock on the market than AMD.
Really?
Yep.
Jesus. And I mean, AMD can't be doing bad. I mean,
well, no, but you look at all the new tablets and phones coming out with
Tegra stuff and all that.
Yeah,
yeah, man. It's amazing how a lot of these companies are actually kind of, and I think the same probably goes for like AMD and say, I'm not sure so much about Intel, but we always think of, like, as PC gamers and such and enthusiasts, we always think of AMD and NVIDIA as like processor manufacturers, and you think of like big chunky NVIDIA graphics cards and things like that. But I reckon the percentage of their business that actually revolves around those high-end products is probably like a very small percentage of what they do overall. Strange. But apparently the sticking point was that NVIDIA's CEO wanted to remain CEO of NVIDIA after AMD bought it out, and AMD didn't fancy it.
No, the NVIDIA CEO insisted on becoming the CEO of the combined company. Ironically, the AMD CEO resigned 2 years later.
He did.
And quit after 3. So
why not, eh?
Fool.
What the hell is that you've just posted in the chat room there, Dan? I don't know if I even want to read that.
A tweet on my Twitter feed that I thought I needed more than just a retweet.
Yeah, that will remain a mystery for anybody listening to the audio feed. Let's move on to the next news story, Dan. And say if I would like to perhaps check out a new first-person shooter from Valve. Do you think there's much? Do you think there's much chance?
Yeah, I think there probably. I should have my T-shirt on, shouldn't I?
You probably should.
Yeah. There's that beta sign-up thingy, that game that we looked at once.
That was a bit
Counter-Strike.
Counter-Strike. You got there.
Yeah.
Global Offensive.
Yes.
Beta sign-ups are now open for the PC version, guys. There's not much more to say about that, other than beta sign-ups are live. And if you'd like to sign up, you can go to blog.counter-strike.net. There is an article on Ironhammers that you can find the exact link, which will take you over to the page, and there's a kind of like Steam survey downloady type diagnostic thing. You know how it is with beta sign-ups these days.
Yeah.
Go and do it. If you haven't signed up yet, probably have. I mean, I'm guessing people are pretty desperate to get their hands on it. But just want to let you know, beta sign-ups are open. And the final news story this week is quite a humorous one I found. It came rock, paper, shotgun with the guys to first pick up on it, I think. And that was the syndicate. I'm just going to delete this episode. It's just going horribly wrong. I just feel it just going deeper and deeper.
The cynical syndicate devs?
Something along those lines. The syndicate developers, as a kind of, I don't know if it's a shun to the piracy scene or what the idea of it was, or whether it was just a joke or whether they were just having a laugh, just trolling, perhaps. They've put a .info file into the actual game files on the disc. When you read it, it says step 1, insert disc, step 2, play, which I think is actually bullshit because you have to install it first.
It's also complete with ASCII art.
It does.
Much yeah.
It does.
Not that I know about these things, obviously.
No, I'm sure people have seen the .info file before, Dan. They're not
Yeah,
that
probably.
young and naive, I'm sure.
It used
Anyhow,
to be so much easier when you just copied the tape.
yep, the days where you could just copy a tape from an Amstrad or something and just, you know, give it to someone. And they used to come on, we used to get a tape on the front of the magazines. Oh man, they're going back to the glory days. But they also mentioned, which was kind of the interesting thing, they mentioned somewhere in the file that people who have got the skills to hack DRM and such things for the pirated versions might want to get in touch with the industry and probably get themselves a job, because those skills are probably transferable.
Yeah.
Which is something I wrote about a while ago on Ironhammers. Was kind of the same. It was a sponsored blog post. It said it on the blog post. I'm not going to have to lie about it. I'm open about it. They paid me. And it was about the government looking for hackers and stuff. I wasn't allowed to say that at the time, which is a bit strange. But there was a campaign called "Can You Crack It?" It's been on all the national newspapers and stuff now.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was some kind of code that you needed to crack on a website, and it wasn't until you cracked it that you could work out what it was. But once you did crack it, if anybody did, I'm assuming some did, it took you to like an application form to get a job with some government service that does something to do with IT. And
That's what they said it was for. I personally think they came around with handcuffs and dragged you off to some non-existent cell somewhere.
perhaps.
That's what goes on in my mind.
But either way, they were pretty keen to get people to do it because they were paying websites to post it.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know. Hung you up by your toenails. See, when you just catch the end of a chat in the chat room, it all gets a bit weird and a little bit disturbing at times. But on that note, we're going to get away from this rather meagre selection of PC gaming news. We're going to take a very quick break, and let me tell you something, guys. I told you I was trying to sort out some better music for during the breaks and stuff. I found something a little bit better than last week. It's a fan song about StarCraft 2, created by somebody called Maduk, which is spelled M-A-D-U-K. I'm sure that's not probably his real name. I don't know.
Is he northern?
He might be. Maduk.
That's Maduk.
Yeah, Maduk. Right, look. Yeah, featuring Vila, which somebody you may have before. She is a chick with purple hair who sings and does lots of things to do with video games. So you may have heard of her before. It's about StarCraft. It's called Ghost Assassin, and the guy gave me permission to play it on the show, providing I told you where you could check him out, which is soundcloud.com/Maduk. DNB, I can't stop thinking about it any other way now, but that's soundcloud.com/MADUK DNB, obviously drum and bass, I'm supposing.
It's an awesome track.
It is an awesome track, and I'm going to try and play it for you guys now because I've lost the file. This show is just a nightmare today, man. An absolute nightmare. You can even hear me clicking through my folders to try and find it. Anyhow, I found it, guys. We'll be right back, and hopefully be a bit more on the ball when we return. Enjoy.
Hey, Commander, can you unplug me? Just for a minute, I need some privacy. Headset off and stretch your neck out. Down the rocks to her head safe house. Yeah, I remember it all. Leave and shut out my calls. The air was so dusty, her armor getting rusty. She found thoughts she never had. Her young ones were just as bad. Did you really know how to feel like a lady? Fingers apart, pull
Welcome back, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. That was Ghost Assassin by MadukDMB, soundcloud.com/MadukDMB, and I'm not going to try and giggle about it, as I can hear, see Dan on the Skype call giggling every time I say it, so I'm not going to mention it anymore. Go and check it out, because there's some great content, and I think Dan's losing it, and this show is just going to pieces. So, Existence. What's Existence, Dan?
Existence. It's a fantastic movie. By the same chap who did Videodrome and a load of other films, so I can't remember his name. But you should check it out. It's on Netflix and Love Film.
Nice, another film. I don't know if I mentioned it on a show before. It's called King of Kong. Did I mention it before, Dan? Do you remember?
I think you might have mentioned it. I just keep thinking of the dog toy Kong that my dog's got.
Yeah, they're like the kind of rubbery bounce.
Yeah, you can get a King
things.
Kong, which is the big one for big dogs.
You can. Yeah, King of Kongs. It's about professional Donkey Kong players. Well, I don't know about professional Donkey Kong players, but world record Donkey Kong players. And I'll tell you what, those guys are some right fucking characters, man. Like, they come from, obviously, the arcade days, and they're kind of still doing these arcade tournament things today. And the guy who had the world record was kind of, I don't know, he's just the right character, basically. And you can't have to watch it to understand what I'm saying, but he was a bit sneaky, and it seemed like they were all there to just protect his record and nothing else. So it all looked a bit shady. It was really weird. But yeah, it's called King of Kongs. It's also on Netflix, so check it out, because it's actually really funny. Me and my mate had a good giggle watching that one. But moving on to some other stuff, as it's been labelled this week. Not so much games. Well, I suppose 2 out of 3 are games. I don't know if Dan's got anything to add. If you have, speak now or forever hold your peace.
If I think of anything, I'll pop it in after.
I don't know if it works
In
like
the
that, if
chat.
you're forever holding your peace, Dan.
Well, I normally hold my peace.
Okay. So, the first thing that I've been doing this week that isn't particularly gaming related is quite as far from gaming as I possibly could, and that's reading a book. And that book I wanted to recommend to you guys. It's part of the Dresden Files series. Some of you might have heard of it. Some of you might have seen a sci-fi series based upon it, which apparently wasn't so successful because it got cancelled after the first season. But the book's pretty damn good. It's the first one in the series. It's called Stormfront, written by a chap called Jim Butcher. I think there's also a graphic novel adaptation of it now. And I'm really loving it. It's about a wizard. See, I'm keeping it nerdy, don't worry guys. Keeping it nerdy. But it's kind of like fantasy in a modern day setting. It's kind of like, you know, True Blood. I don't want to compare it to True Blood because it's better than True Blood, but I'm guessing you've seen True Blood, Dan, to some extent.
Yeah, I saw a couple of episodes.
It's kind of got witches and werewolves, and obviously vampires is the main thing, but it kind of branches out into different things later on. It's kind of like that in the way that it's set in the modern day, except there's kind of like this fantastical world also going on, and this guy's a wizard, and he has an office that says that he's a wizard. It's got his name on it. His name is Harry Dresden, obviously, which is where the Dresden Files come from, and on his door to his office it says Harry Dresden Wizard, and he has phone book ads and stuff which say Harry Dresden Wizard. And basically he gets called up for different things, like he says like lost items and stuff, but the books are mainly about, he also collaborates with the police on like murder cases and stuff where supernatural things have taken place. And like I say, Stormfront is the first one in the series. I've only just started it. I'm a few chapters in, and it's really cool. It's like really good. It's really interesting. It's all written in the first person, so it's really good. It's really good. So definitely check it out. There's a whole bunch of them. There's about 10 or 12 of them altogether, and I think I'm going to make my way through the lot.
Cool.
So check it out. I think it's about a $5 for like a Kindle version or something on Amazon, or there is used copies on Amazon for a penny, so go and check it out. Or you can do what I did and go to your local library and get it for free. And I've got people speak to me on Steam because this show is going terribly wrong.
I have to drive 16 miles for my local library, so I probably won't do that.
I don't know if you can really call it a local library if it's that far away, Dan.
Well, we do have a library van that turns up. I
Yeah.
see if they've got it in that. But, yeah.
Yeah, we have one that comes around here too, even though there's a library about 5 seconds around the corner. I guess it's for people that can't get around so much. It's down by the old people's home. Makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, it looks like I've already got it.
looks like you've already got it.
Yeah.
The Dresden Files.
Not that one. I've got Blood Rights, Changes, Dead Beats, Death Mask, Full Moon, Grave Peril, Proven Guilty, Side Job, Small Favour, Stormfront, Summer Night, Turncoat, and White Knight.
You have got that one. This one's called Stormfront. That's the first one.
Has it? Oh, right, yeah, I've got Stormfront then. Yeah.
Read it, man. Read it.
I'm handing it to my Kindle now.
Do it. Yeah, it's pretty awesome, guys. Check it out. So the second thing, we'll move on to Auto Club Revolution.
Ah, yes.
We had quite an experience with that this week, didn't we, Dan?
You did.
Well, yeah, my experience was alright. Me and Fodder, who's in the chat room now, did a few races, which Dan ruined for us.
Cheers.
But yeah, would you like to explain how you ruined them for us, Dan?
I tried to play. That's all I did. I didn't do anything wrong. I tried to join a race and it wouldn't let me join. So I downloaded all of the files, which is something like 2 gig. No, 4 gig, I think it was. No, it was 2 gig. And they all installed perfectly. Tried to join again. Wouldn't let me play. Tried to host a race. Wouldn't. Then it just crashed. It works. I played it again recently, single player. Absolutely fine.
Yeah? Well, me and Fodder were playing just fine. It just seemed that you couldn't join the race for some reason.
I've got no idea. I did everything that you'd normally do, like turn off firewalls. But
Wasn't
just
so
doesn't like
successful,
me.
was it?
No.
And because Dan didn't join the race, all competitors didn't finish. So apparently that meant that me and Fodder didn't get our experience points and our credits for... credits are the kind of Xbox currency of Auto Club Revolution, I guess you could call it. And it's obviously a free-to-play game. It's in beta. I've still got beta keys if anyone wants one. Hit me up. I keep saying that. They're just not going, Dan. I have got rid of a few since the last show. I've actually had a few people contact me and say, can you sort me out of one? But yeah, we lumbered around the corners, as Fodder says, because the handling on the car you get given at the start is fucking terrible.
It's fantastic.
It just doesn't turn, man. It's like...
And then it turns
worst
too much.
Undersit ever. It's just terrible. Yeah, and then it turns too much, and then it kind of...
Spins round and
and then Fodder knocked me off the edge of the world. Now, bear in mind, we're talking about this, guys. It's still in beta, so there is obviously a few little issues with it. Which seem to be the things we're talking about most. But, was jostling with Fodder on a corner. He'd upgraded his car, and he was kind of like taking me on the straights, but on the corners we were kind of jostling at it a little bit, and he kind of forced me off the edge of the road, and I just went onto the grass and fell straight through the grass. It was like I just entered a black hole, and my car was just like tumbling through the air for about 30 seconds. It just kept falling, and it just wasn't going to stop. So then I had to quit. So then that meant 2 people didn't finish the race. So yeah, a lot of credits were missed out on there, and I need more credits to get a better car. I haven't had a chance to play anymore yet. But yeah, you build up credits by playing, or you can buy them. You can't buy them yet because it's still in beta. Trolls asked me for an ACR beta key. I'll get you one. And that is Auto Club Revolution at the moment. It's still in beta, like I say. Check it out for yourself. It's quite a cool little racing game, though, isn't it, man?
Yeah, it has a lot of potential.
It definitely does.
Looking forward to getting to actually having a decent car.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the handling troubles are with the car and not with the game.
Yeah, and I also hope they add more game modes to the single player, because at the moment there's only timed events, setting the fastest lap.
There's also like elimination mode as well, where the last person on the lap.
Not on my single player.
Oh, on single player. Sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about multiplayer.
No, I haven't got to play that yet for some reason.
No, it seems to keep breaking on you, doesn't it? Have you tried playing a multiplayer game like just with random people at all, or
Why would I want to do that?
see if it works?
Well, I suppose.
I guess not. Yeah, I've played a few multiplayer races and they've worked alright. Just went down joins, it just doesn't work. So I think there's something going there. Right. I think it's because he keeps telling me that he's got 5th place in these F1 tournaments and stuff, and he thinks I'm going to find out the truth. So he's just yanking his network cable out of StarCraft 1 start.
I've been rumbled.
I'm sure somebody did that to me today on StarCraft 2 actually, because I was playing a game earlier and I was on about 5 bases to this poor little Terran guy's 2 bases, and I had so many bases compared to him, I was just throwing Banelings and Zerglings at him because it just didn't matter. I could just keep making them again, and he was kind of trying to hold it off, and I was like, if I just keep sending them, eventually he'll die. And then I built about 10 infestors because it was just getting silly, and went into his base, started fungal growthing all his SCVs and stuff, and then his connection dropped, and had to wait for it to count down to finish the game, which I don't understand, because people used to do it in StarCraft 1 because it kind of didn't count as a win if the person dropped, but obviously on StarCraft 2 it does. So if he did intentionally drop, then it was a bit silly of him, because it wouldn't have made no difference, and it would have been a minute quicker for him just to... But it's sad if you know someone's raged and to that extent.
Yeah, apart from when they're on your team, and then it gets really annoying.
Yeah,
Which is
that's
an experience I had earlier this week with League of Legends.
Yeah, so you can't do the 1v1 thing in League of Legends. It doesn't work so well, does it?
No, and someone on my team was having a bad day.
But if you play this game called StarCraft, Dan,
Yeah,
you
I've
can
heard
actually
about that.
you can control like 200 units at the same time.
I
and
can
you
barely
don't have to
manage
rely
one.
on anybody else at all. Like, if you fail, it's your own fault.
Yeah, I can barely manage one in League of Legends, so
You'll be alright.
I need some more lessons.
But talking about ACR having potential, as you said a minute ago,
Yeah.
there's another game that I spoke about last week called Oil Rush, which I also
remember.
said had potential. And I've been trying to play it some more. And I've even like skipped the missions that I was complaining about last week, and moved on to later ones to try and see if that was any better. And I just keep running into the same problems I was on about last week. Like, the idea of, if you didn't listen to last week's show, I'm not going to go into it too much, but it's like an RTS, but instead of directing exactly where units go, you're moving them between oil rigs in an ocean. And like I said last week, the way that your units can only kind of gather around the different rigs, it just doesn't seem to work, man. Like, I've experimented a bit with sending flying units around to like behind their base, and because you can only go to the actual rigs, you can't go to middle ground areas and kind of defend properly. It just every time I play it turns into this weird game of jumping around to these different rigs and capturing one, and then another one gets captured, and then so I jump back and capture it, and then another one gets captured, and it just ends up being just a losing battle. And it just seems, I think it's a balance thing more than anything. I think they need to balance it out a bit. Hopefully a patch or something will come, because like I said last week, it's a really, really good idea, but they just haven't quite executed it right. And when I say quite, I mean not at all. Which is a shame. So
I should have to check it out.
yeah, I don't know if there's a demo of it actually. There might be a demo. If you can find a demo, then I'd say check it out just to kind of see the idea. Because like I say, it's a really good idea of how they've kind of tried to simplify the RTS. Because like I said last week, all the units are built automatically, and it really intrigued me, and I really wanted to play it more. But after I've tried so much to try and like suss it out, because I kept thinking that perhaps it was me, perhaps like my strategies were wrong, or perhaps my control was wrong, or perhaps it was just me not playing it right. But I've like gone through the tutorials again in case I missed something. like I say, tried loads of different missions, and I've even like put the difficulty right down, and it still just turns into this like fucking game of musical oil rigs. It just pisses me off, and I never even finish a mission. I don't even lose a mission. I just get pissed off because I'm just going backwards and forwards. So I don't know.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it's a bit of an error, I think. So yeah, that's Oil Rush. Like I said, if there's a demo, perhaps check it out. The idea is great, and if they can balance it out a bit with patches, then it'll be a good game. But how it stands at the moment, it's a shame. It's a real shame. But was there anything else you want to mention, Dan? You said you'd bring it up later.
Yeah,
He thought of something.
I've played a bit more, and there's a little blurb coming up on the site soon. Played a bit more of a Warlock, Master of the Arcane, because I thought it deserved a bit more time, and it really is great fun. Really looking forward to that coming out, seeing the final build. The Civ 5 fan in me just loves it, and it's got dragons and magic and loads of other cool stuff in it, so it's even better.
Everything gets better with dragons and magic.
Yeah.
Hence why these Dresden File books are so great. Wizards
I'm looking
and
forward to starting that one tonight.
werewolves and vampires and all kinds of stuff. Like I say, I'm only a few chapters in. Who knows where it goes from here? It started off with 2 people being found dead because their hearts had exploded
Stop
from the inside out. Dan, it's minor spoilers. Dan, it's minor spoilers. yeah, exploding hearts. Anyway, exploding hearts.
Probably got to do some kind of warning for the next bit, haven't we? Because there's a spoiler possibly in that, isn't there?
There's a spoiler. I'm going to say it now. Mass Effect 3 has Protheans in it, so ha.
Oh, well, there we go. That's that.
Sorted. We don't have to care anymore. On that note, quick break, guys. We're going to be right back. If I pissed you off, don't listen after the break. And just to please you all a little bit more, during this break, I've got some of that awesome generic music that we play for you guys.
Fantastic.
And all these people listening must have heard about the Protheans already, surely.
It's been quite hard. I've been talking to a lot of people about it, and trying to talk about it without talking about that fact is quite hard.
It doesn't work, so that's why I got it out in the open, Dan.
Yeah.
That was my plan. Anyway, guys, we shall be back in a few moments. Welcome back, guys. So, as the chat room discusses Day 1 DLC, why don't we jump right into it, Dan?
Sounds like a plan.
So, I'm going to just read through what I posted for the question of the week on the website, just to give people a bit of background on the whole situation. Now, the story, of course, stems from the recent Mass Effect DLC. So, what I wrote was, it came to light during the week that Mass Effect 3 will launch with DLC being available from the very first moment. It will come bundled with the Collector's Edition, contain a mission, a new squad mate, and a new cosmetic outfit for each of the squad mates in the game. If you weren't lucky enough to get the Collector's Edition, you'll be able to buy it from the start. Many were quick to shout that BioWare are cutting up the game into smaller pieces in an attempt to make an extra bit of coin, although executive producer Casey Hudson was soon to point out that wasn't the case. He said it takes about 3 months from content complete to bug fix, certify, manufacture and ship game discs. In that time, we work on DLC. DLC has fast certification, no manufacturing, so if a team works very hard, they can get DLC done in a time to enjoy it with your first playthrough on day 1. But with that said, there still seems to be a huge proportion of people who feel that for whatever reason they are entitled to have anything developed before launch day without having to pay extra for it. But what do you think? Leave a comment below and we'll read it out on tonight's episode of Ironhammers Live, which brings us to this very moment. So we've had a few responses in. Do you want to do the first one? They're all quite lavish, hey man.
Yeah, well, the first one is from a kiddo. He says, I personally think this is a piss take. It's not the day 1 DLC part. It's the only way to obtain it without paying extra is the collector's edition, which you do pay extra for.
Yeah.
Things that should be allowed in these really isn't massive lore character DLC. It's not just that, but it is a massive piece of the lore. There's nothing new with day 1 DLC, like online codes, etc. on the consoles. I despise them, but that's a different story. If BioWare want to keep shoveling shit, I won't be buying the game. It's not just a day 1 DLC either. There's iPhone apps, pre-order bonuses, status, collectibles with in-game content. Most of it is cosmetic. On to what should be in a collector's edition: cosmetic stuff, physical items, keyring, statue, art book, soundtrack, etc. And in-game cosmetics. Not actual story content that plays a massive part in the lore. Sure, it's going to be a complete storyline without it, but then it's just not right anyway. It's not about entitlement, it's about being upfront and honest with the customer from day 1. Look at Arkham City. That was just a joke. The way that happened a few days before release, and an online pass is coming, story driven and as well. I really should have pre-read this. This really has to stop. It's now gone from a great thing like Battlefield Bad Company 2 VIP pass, which didn't stop anything, just gave you all the maps at no extra cost, to online passes which just block online play. To this, sorry. Thanks Microsoft for allowing this and for promoting it in your own published games.
So before we go on to comment, I think we'll wait till the end. We'll get these out of the way. Tyler Crawl, as some of you may know him, says, I have a problem with day 1 DLC that is story-driven content such as the current Mass Effect 3 DLC. The DLC was obviously cut from the main game and used as an incentive to make people get the collector's edition, or, as I scroll down a bit further, pay the extra $10 on top of the game. The only DLC I don't mind is small things like cosmetic stuff or weapons, armor, etc. When it comes to a party character, someone that looks like he is vital to the story because of the race the character is, it's crossed the line. They should have just given this character to anyone who bought a new non-used copy of the standard edition.
Well, our resident troll Josh chimes in with, quite frankly, I think that day 1 DLC is generally bad, unless it's something purely cosmetic, or only requires a small amount of programmer's time. I'm perfectly fine with that. However, when it's something that changes the game's difficulty, overpowered weapons and items, etc., or even worse, something that adds in-story missions that should ship with the game, when you buy a game, you're paying for all of the development time that's gone into it. And if they've taken time out to make something that they charge extra for, then it's unethical. One of the major arguments for day 1 DLC is that otherwise staff get laid off for having no work to do whilst the game goes through testing. But more often than not, this is not the case. as they can be working on other projects, bug fixing, or even taking short vacations if they're lucky. Yeah. In the rare event they do get laid off, it may just be because they didn't perform well during the game's creation, and so are being fired for different reasons.
Could be.
Could be.
Let's refresh one more time. Make sure there's no more that have been. Nope, because I was getting Steam messages saying, "You got more answers. You got more answers." I guess they were them. But yeah, what do you think, Dan?
I think it's a sticky issue. Obviously, people don't like it, but in this case, I haven't played the game yet. It makes me think that that's probably not the only Prothean you're going to come across. There's going to be others in there.
Exactly, that was my point as well that I was trying to make in my aforementioned arguments on Twitter, was that everyone's saying how vital it is to the story because it's a Prothean, but it's a Prothean squad mate, which is like just this guy who's going to follow you around with a different skin. There's one mission on Eden Prime which is kind of going to obviously be story driven somehow, but I'm sure there's going to be a shed load of Prothean based content in the story of the game. Like,
yeah, it's been leading up to it.
Exactly. Like, possibly the only bad thing about it is the spoiler of the Prothean, but
yeah, I'm not too pissed off about that either. I'm kind of excited to see what they're like.
Oh yeah, exactly.
It's not going to stop me buying the game. It's not going to stop me buying the DLC, because actually I'd quite like to do it on my first playthrough and not have to go back through, and I probably wouldn't bother playing it again.
This is another one of my arguments, was like, I played so first, just to put my viewpoint across, it's pretty much the same as Dan's. I don't really care. Like, everyone's saying EA done this, BioWare done that, they've cut parts from the game, they're just trying to make extra money, all this kind of stuff. But BioWare are not going to sacrifice the integrity of their storyline
for a few bucks.
Exactly. And I don't see the problem with there being DLC on day one, because a lot of the DLC, such as the Kasumi DLC for Mass Effect 2, which I bought, I'd already finished the game by the time I played that DLC, so I gained a new squad mate, which was then fairly useless. I played one mission, which was the Kasumi mission, with her in my squad. Well, she wasn't really in my squad then, to be fair. I was still attaining her at the start anyway, and then she was kind of rendered useless because I'd already finished the game. So if it's extra content like they say it is, and I mean, no one can say that that's not true, no one can say that that is true. I mean, sure, we get a lot of marketing bullshit thrown about, as happens in every single industry in the world. Politicians being the worst for it. But no one can say that that's not the case. No one can say that this wasn't extra content that was developed. And I would like to ask what people would have thought if it was included in the collector's edition and there was no other way for people to buy it. Yeah,
that I would have been pissed off then.
Especially
since I wouldn't have been able to get the collector's edition.
Oh yeah, because you can't get the collector's edition anymore anywhere. And like you say, I think I would have been more annoyed if they hadn't released Day 1 DLC, because there would have been that in the collector's edition and I would have had no other way to find it. So they've released it on Day 1 and they still lose out. Like, they're still wrong. I mean, you can't please the internet, everybody knows that.
No, you can't. You can never get it right. But
if
you don't like it, don't buy it.
No, exactly. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to play it. And my other thing was, if you don't like the fact that there's Day 1 DLC, buy it in 3 months' time if it's that much of a problem. Like, you don't have to buy it now.
Although you probably will get the most out of it if you buy it.
Well, yeah, it's actually better to be able to buy it now in this case. And
no, there's certain fairly famous people on the internet who are calling for a boycott of Mass Effect 3. Now, I think that's just stupid. He said himself he absolutely loved the first 2 games. He's really excited about Mass Effect 3, but because of the day one DLC, he's not going to buy it. And loads of people listen to him. Lee met him in the queue for Eurogamer, and
And I'm not going to
withhold
any names here. We're talking about Total Biscuit, which I have great respect for what he does, and I mean, just this weekend I watched about 20 hours of him commentating the Assembly StarCraft tournament in Helsinki. But that particular video, it was made before BioWare said anything, and as are a lot of the comments that are coming around the internet on this subject, a lot of it is pure assumption. Nobody's played the DLC yet, nobody's played the game yet, nobody can say that this is vital story content. Just because it's a Prothean squad mate.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, fair enough, it's Eden Prime and the time is there, but no one says that Eden Prime isn't going to be in the game at all if you don't have the DLC. Nobody is saying that there's going to be no other Protheans. The story is going to be complete. I don't care what anybody says.
No.
It's, it's BioWare are just not going to do that. I don't care. And if people don't buy it because of it, then ask yourself, do you think Mass Effect will be worth the £40 or whatever it costs? About probably 30. You can pick it up on the PC, I would imagine. Even if it is 40, do you think Mass Effect 3 is going to be worth £40? And if you say no to that,
don't buy it.
Don't buy it. And if you do say no to that, I would like to bet you're wrong.
Yeah, because from what I've played of it so far, it's going to be such a fantastic game.
The demo is amazing. The rest of the series is amazing. And the DLC isn't going to cost £10, Troll. No way is the DLC going to cost £10.
No, it's $10. It was advertised for on X. Well, it wasn't $10. It's whatever it equates to $10. So it's going to be £8 at the most.
Well,
on the 360 version.
Yeah, the rest of the BioWare DLC was like about £5 or £6, I think, which I imagine is what it will be. Yeah. And do I think that another mission and a new squad mate and alternate costumes for all my characters is worth £5 or £6? Yeah, probably. In BioWare's case, in Mass Effect case, yeah.
Yeah.
So
even if it's £10, I'll probably still buy it. If
the game is worth £40 and the DLC is even worth £10, if Dan says, I don't see the problem. Now, I'm not advocating day one DLC in all circumstances. There's plenty of cases where it's on the disc and it's a bit sketchy, and they're just putting something behind a paywall.
Yeah, you're just downloading a key to access it, basically. That I have issues with. But if it does turn out that the download for the DLC is, a few hundred kilobytes, then I'll be pissed off.
Perhaps.
Because then it is obviously on the disc. But I doubt it is, so I'm going to be fine with it.
I'm fine with it. Nothing's going to stop me playing Mass Effect 3, man. I don't care. I don't care to say it. I'm going to be playing it.
On the off chance that he is listening, Total Biscuit, don't be a fool. Buy the game. You'll probably get given a review copy anyway. Play the game, you'll love it.
Like, he'll play it, man. He'll play it. I don't care. Everyone will play it. I just don't see. I'm talking like I said, assumption and entitlement at the beginning of the show. If if BioWare have made something that they feel is worth $10, why should they not sell it at $10 just because of the time they made it? Like,
it's like buying a car. You buy a car new, you choose your extras. You don't think you're entitled to those extras. They cost more money.
Well, no, that was what I said on Twitter the other day. Like, if you want a GPS in a car, you don't say, what, you're willing to say you have the capability of putting a GPS in it, but you didn't. You're going to make me pay extra. Like, what do you mean you can put leather seats on it, but you haven't on mine because I didn't pay for them? Like, if they've made extra content, which... this is what they're saying they have. I mean, like I say, I can't confirm or deny whether that's true or not.
Yeah.
And even, like, maybe they just didn't mention it at all and released it in like a month's time, nobody would have said a fucking word.
Even 2 weeks later, no
Yeah.
one would have said a word.
And everybody would have finished the game, and they would have got nothing out of having an extra squad mate unless they played through a second time.
And I would have said DLC was great, but I'd loved it on day one.
Yeah, like it's like I can't wait for StarCraft 2, the next version, to come out. If
Yeah.
Blizzard had said to me, well, we're going to release Wings of Liberty today for $60 or whatever it was, and we're going to release Heart of the Swarm tomorrow for $60, I would have said, fucking awesome, man. Like, yeah, bring it
I like
on.
both.
Where's the Protoss one? Come on, like, sort it out, like, Blizzard. What's going on? I don't know, man. I think ultimately it's just all a discussion about value at the end of the day, and
Yeah.
it's up to the consumer in each case to decide whether they think it's good value or not. And if it's not, then obviously don't buy it. But don't assume that it's not worth buying Mass Effect 3 because you don't think you should buy the DLC, because like, how ignorant would it be of BioWare to like spoil the story of their game? Not I say spoil, not as in a spoiler alert type sense, but to ruin the integrity of their game storyline just to make an extra $10. Like, for a company that is so heavily reliant on story-driven games, which is
And their
always
fan base.
exactly. I mean, that is the story is why people play BioWare games, and the
Yeah.
story is why both me and you are so fucking keen to play Mass Effect 3. Like,
Wait.
it's. I mean, if anybody is asked what their favourite parts about Mass Effect, it's most certainly going to be the story in every case. And I just don't believe that BioWare would risk the integrity of that story for anything. Even if it was EA saying, oh yeah, make some extra money, I don't buy it. I don't. And dare I say, they probably deserve the extra $10 anyway. Like, I'm sure the content will be worth that money. Like,
Well, we shall soon find out.
we shall soon find out. That day is creeping ever sooner, Dan.
I know it's 9 days.
Yup.
Not that.
No, it's actually there's a leap year this year, Dan.
Ah, bollocks.
It's further away than you thought, and I think it's actually it's 9 days plus 1, so it's 10 days. It's 10 days. So yeah.
Yeah. Good at maths there.
Yeah, I'd said last week, Dan, never do maths when you're actually being recorded or live
Yeah.
on the internet, because you will get caught out.
It's 12
Troll
days.
says nice maths, bro, in the chat room there. And he's saying what's in the chat there, that you keep saying BioWare, but it's EA pushing this stuff. Perhaps it is.
Perhaps it is, but they didn't,
It's not like
They could have
BioWare
turned around
made
and said
DLC
no.
before. Like, do you know what I mean? BioWare have made DLC before. It's not a new idea. Like, is it I can't understand. I don't know whether it's I'm looking at it from a biased perspective, but BioWare are making. See, he's saying BioWare would probably have wanted to include the Prothean and actually make it part of the story. I'm sure it will be part of the story. I mean,
regardless of the DLC, they will be there.
a DLC gives you the squad mate, which is just a guy who follows you around. It doesn't really do anything. Like,
Yeah, and the missions, the extra missions with some story in them, are going to be you getting that squad mate.
it's how you
It's
retain
not
that
going
character.
to be-
Yeah.
it's not going to be game changing, really.
It's definitely not. And
It's
having
just,
like
you'll get a bit of his history.
yeah, and
or
having
hers.
that particular Prothean's history, like not the whole Prothean race, not the whole
No.
Prothean technology, not the whole Mass Effect series is just going to be like inconsistent because you've got a Prothean guy who walks behind you. Because I mean, that's pretty much what a squad mate does.
Yeah.
You know, you can go and talk to them and they'll give you some kind of pointless
Missions
talk,
to do, get an upgrade for your ship or something.
or they'll give you some generic conversational sentence or something. Like, they're really not integral. A squad mate isn't integral to the story as such. Well, they are. The main ones are like Miranda and, you know, all the other ones that you have in Mass Effect 2 and such.
Yeah, Rex isn't important to me because he's dead.
But it's the the DLC ones, like Kasumi, had no bearing on the story whatsoever. It was completely separate. Like, I can only assume this is going to be the same scenario here. Like, I don't know. Like, I think we kind of hit the nail on the head when we both agree that we'd be more annoyed if the collector's edition had DLC that we weren't able to get.
Yeah, but there are times, I must admit, when I'm annoyed when you get a collector's edition and then that DLC is available at the same time for the non-collector's edition, and it's cheaper. That pisses me off.
Do you know what else actually comes with the Mass Effect Collector's Edition aside from that?
Yeah.
There's like an art book or something, is there?
Yeah, you get an art book, you get a robotic dog that I guess follows you around, kind of like dog meat, I guess. You get a physical patch that you could sew onto your man bag or your blazer or God knows what. I'd probably just keep it in the tin. I think it comes with a tin. You get some Avatar stuff on the 360 version, and no soundtrack, which is a bit of a shame. Because the soundtracks have always been quite good.
No soundtrack, that sucks.
Yeah. So,
I guess
sort
EA
something
made
out
them
of
do that as well, so we have to buy the soundtrack.
Probably. Yeah.
I reckon. And more comments in the chat room saying, but they could have made it into part of the story or added an extra mission if they didn't take the time out of development to make the DLC. Or they could have released it as a free DLC if people who bought it new, which they could have done.
Yeah.
But
as far as we know, they didn't take time out of development to make the DLC.
No, that's as
the
far as we
entire
know.
point.
And even if they did, they said a separate team made the DLC as well. And even if they did take time out of development to make the DLC, I don't think that any of us, like even you and I, understand the development process of a game and the value of time to the final product and the time put in. We don't understand how much time is worth the full game and how much time is worth DLC and how much man hours are put into each part and how that works out in their overall strategy for the game's success, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, the business plan.
We don't understand that stuff, like, and we never will, because that's the kind of stuff that's never really going to be revealed to the public. And does it, just because it was made now, does it mean it doesn't have a value aside from the full game? Like, because the biggest thing I've heard that it is everything made before release day should be included for free.
Yeah.
But I don't quite get it.
No, I don't. Everything that is promised in the release should be included.
Yeah, which is Mass Effect 3, and we're going to get Mass Effect 3 regardless.
Yeah. And I want my bikes in test drive because that was promised in the game and they're still not there. But I don't think I should have to pay for that. But when it comes to Mass Effect, I'm quite happy. It's an extra character. It's a Prothean. There's some stuff going to it. And I don't think I would have a better Mass Effect if they'd included that in the game on day one. I think I'd have exactly the same Mass Effect. Possibly slightly worse. Don't know why it'd be slightly worse, but I've got a funny feeling it would be if they tried to cram in extra and then waited the 3 months it takes for debugging and verification by the consoles, which makes you also wonder why it takes so long for us to get dodgy PC ports when they've got they've got all the time, because Microsoft and Sony take a long time verifying the games. Can't they be sorting the PC version out then?
Yeah, see, that's what Capcom were talking about that not so long ago, actually, and how that they don't, like, there's obviously massive delays with like Street Fighter 4 and stuff, the PC versions.
Yeah.
And they're saying how they don't even start the PC version until the other version is released, which just kind of pissed me off. Really. Why not? Like, why not? But it's actually a decent PC port.
Yeah.
And the Mass Effect 3 PC version is a decent PC port. Well, it's not even a PC port. It's a PC version.
Yeah.
As BioWare games always are. Like, I don't think it even supports a controller. It has to be played with keyboard and mouse.
Quite often they'll even do separate PS3 and 360 versions.
They certainly will.
Yeah. Which is why they tend to always run on.
But yeah, games
quite well.
Now Troll is kicking up a rant in the chat room, and he's saying that a lot of his stuff is games in general rather than just Mass Effect, which is all I can say about this subject I'm discussing now. Is I'm talking about Mass Effect. Like,
Yeah.
There's plenty of other scenarios where I feel that people are doing things just to make a bit of extra money, and like I'd almost guarantee that some of these Modern Warfare map packs are developed before the game release, or at least like designed layout wise and stuff before the game releases. Like, I'd almost guarantee it. Like, and I'd almost guarantee that many games have DLC developed before release day, whether it releases on release day or whether it releases even a year later. I dare say that the idea for the DLC is there, and
Of course
they've started work on it, and
it's become so expected for any game to have DLC now that it's, they'd be stupid not to.
well, yeah, exactly, and it's and now Troll is obviously saying Modern Warfare is a perfect example of bad design, and Fodder says some of the maps are taken from previous games. Exactly. Yep, they sure are. It's redesigned.
Changing the game slightly. We touched on it last week about Civ 5. Loads of people who complain about the DLC for that because it's reintroducing something that was in previous games, which is the religious win, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But they're choosing to miss out the fact that you get 9 new civilizations, 9 new wonders, 3 original scenarios, 27 new units, 13 new buildings, new technologies and resources. The civilizations include Carthage, the Netherlands, and the Celts, and the Mayans. They've all got unique traits and buildings, and it also includes 9 new leaders, including William I, Prince of Orange, Boadicea, and someone else. And there's a really cool new scenario, which has a Victorian science fiction kind of theme going to it. That all sounds awesome to me, and yet people are going, "Oh, that should have been in day one." Really, piss off.
You can't win. You can't win.
I know.
Yes, Modern Warfare 2 had maps taken from COD 4, and COD 4 had maps taken from COD 2. Chinatown, was it called Chinatown? I don't remember. Chinatown was Carentan reskinned with Chinatown type things. Did you know that? Now we're going back.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, on that note, Modern Warfare, Mass Effect, whatever game we're talking about, Arkham City with the Catwoman stuff, they've just got to be taken on a case-by-case basis. And as I was saying again to somebody on Twitter the other day, we're kind of in this transitional period between expansion packs and discs and downloadable content and digital distribution, and it's going to take a bit of publishers and developers feeling around and trying to find what does work for them and the consumer.
Yeah.
And within that transitional period, there's going to be people that do it good, and there's going to be people that do it bad. There's going to be people that stick with the older model, and there's going to be people that try new things. And the only way that as consumers we can decide what is wrong, what is right, what is good value, is to buy it or not buy it. So, do you think that wraps it up well enough, Dan?
I think it does.
I think it does too. You could go on and on and on, and another question comes up: why do digital downloads cost as much as retail discs? Sometimes they don't, and a lot of the time the price of a digital version comes down a lot quicker and the publishers aren't making discs or boxes or anything like that out of it, but I'm still getting the same content. I don't like if I pay £30 and get a disc and I pay £30 and get a download. Is it not the same game? Am I not getting the same number of hours of enjoyment from that game? Which is the thing when you look at an entertainment, like, I don't know. We could go into it all day, but somebody, as Dan said, send that in next week. Why did digital distribution cost as much as retail discs? We'll do that as a question for next week. Send it in as an email, podcast@ironhammers.org. And on that note, I'll thank everybody for listening, and I hope I didn't offend anybody too much with my differing opinions.
Didn't offend me in the slightest,
no,
Bobby.
see, Dan's on the same note as me. I don't know. Me and Dan just seem to agree. I think Dan's the only person I've spoken to so far that does. Maybe we're wrong, Dan. Maybe we're wrong.
I'd like to think that everyone else is, because I can't see a problem with it. I really can't.
Me neither. Me neither. But
perhaps I'm just being naive.
If you've got an opinion on the matter and you didn't answer the question of the week, like I say, or you've got further questions that arise from the subject and you'd like to know what we think about it, send an email over to podcast@ironhammers.org. We'll feature it on the show next week. So I'll say thanks to everybody for listening. I'll say go and check us out at ironhammers.org. And before I forget, a brief mention to our sponsors, which are Green Man Gaming. You can buy your games from there and support us at the same time by using the link gmg.ironhammers.org. Aside from that, cheers to Dan.
It's been a pleasure as always.
Cheers to everybody else listening, whether it's recorded, video, YouTube. Hopefully the YouTube version will go up sooner this week. Twitch won't break on me. And we'll see you guys all sometime next Sunday, around about 10 p.m. Be here for 10 p.m. We should be live.
I'll be getting excited.
From about 9 p.m. I'm sure the excitement will be boiling for another week or so yet, Dan.
Yeah.
We'll see you all very soon. Good night, guys.